The execution was broadcast in perfect clarity. High-definition hollow feeds projected across every diplomatic channel, every monitored system, every listening post in known space. The floor of the Grand Tribunal chamber gleamed beneath towering obsidian columns, banners of the Galactic Council hanging in ceremonial symmetry behind the raised platform. At the center of the chamber stood a child, 10 standard years old. Small hands bound, tear-streaked face tilted upward toward beings who called themselves civilized. His crime, according to the formal declaration, was vandalism. A human boy had allegedly scratched a coalition shrine on a frontier station, etched his name into polished alloy beside symbols he did not understand. For this, the council declared an example must be made. The presiding counselor, draped in iridescent regalia, raised a crystalline scepter as the hall fell silent. Humanity has grown, disruptive, he announced, voice amplified across the galaxy. Expansion without deference. Persistence without permission. This species must be reminded of its place. The child tried to speak. The audio feed caught only fragments, "I didn't mean," before the disruptor fired. Light swallowed him. Where he had stood, there was only ash drifting across the tribunal floor. No hesitation. No regret. Applause echoed faintly from certain sections of the chamber, measured, dignified, approving. The counselor lowered the weapon and looked directly into the broadcast lens. Let this be a lesson. Humanity will comply, or humanity will be corrected. The transmission ended. On the bridge of the HSS Indomitable, silence weighed heavier than vacuum. Admiral Marcus Hale stood at the forward viewport, Earth suspended below in serene blue and white. The live feed replayed in a muted window beside him, over and over, looping the moment of light. No one spoke. Commander Reyes finally broke the stillness. "Orders, sir." Hale did not turn. His reflection in the glass looked carved from stone. Jaw tight. Eyes unreadable. "They made it public," Reyes continued carefully. "They wanted fear." Hale's hands were clasped behind his back, knuckles white. "They wanted submission," he said quietly. On the secondary display, strategic overlays flickered, Council fleet deployments across border systems. Patrol lines tightening. Transit corridors flagged with embargo codes. They expected outrage. They expected protest. They expected diplomacy. Hale reached forward and paused the feed at the moment before the shot. The boy's eyes were wide, not defiant, not rebellious, just afraid. A breath left Hale slowly. They crossed the line. The words were almost gentle. Reyes understood immediately. For decades, humanity had tolerated insult. Trade restrictions, limited expansion zones, oversight committees, biased arbitration rulings. Every provocation had been met with restraint. But there are thresholds even patient species recognize. Hale turned at last. "Signal High Command," he said. Reyes straightened. "Priority Alpha." Beyond that, the bridge crew exchanged glances as encrypted channels activated across classified frequencies buried deep within Earth's defense network. Hale's voice did not rise. "Unlock Project Aegis protocols. Authorize Sigma-class mobilization." A pause. Reyes swallowed. "That requires unanimous executive confirmation." Hale's eyes hardened. "You have it." Across hidden shipyards beneath mountain ranges and oceanic trenches, dormant reactors hummed to life for the first time in centuries. Massive hulls shuddered free from camouflage fields. Ancient warships, designed in darker times, began to wake. On the bridge, Hale watched Earth turn beneath them, peaceful, unaware. Then he gave the final order. Weapons online. The entrance to the facility did not exist on any public map. It was buried beneath kilometers of granite in the Rocky Mountain Defensive Corridor, listed officially as a decommissioned seismic research site. Satellite imagery showed nothing but snow and forest. Admiral Marcus Hale descended alone at first. Biometric scanners verified retinal pattern, DNA sequence, neural signature. Steel doors thicker than warship hull plating parted in slow, grinding segments, revealing a corridor untouched by time. Lights flickered on as he walked. Dust did not gather here. Maintenance systems had run for generations without acknowledgement, preserving a secret humanity hoped never to use. At the final blast door, Commander Reyes and a dozen senior officers joined him. "Sir," Reyes said quietly, "even most of High Command believed this program mothballed." "It was never mothballed," Hale replied. "It was waiting." He placed his palm against the authentication panel. The door opened. Gasps echoed in the cavernous chamber beyond. It was not a hangar. It was a cathedral of war. Row upon row of warships stretched into shadow, massive, angular hulls forged from dark composite alloys that absorbed light rather than reflected it. Their silhouettes were predatory, unfamiliar even to seasoned officers raised on modern fleet design. Some bore hull markings decades old. Others, centuries. Commander Patel stepped forward, voice hushed. "That's a pre-expansion dreadnought frame." "Yes," Hale confirmed. "But those designs were scrapped after the Concord Accords." "Officially." Hale walked between the towering vessels, boots echoing across polished ferrocrete. "After the first interstellar treaties," he said, "Earth's leadership asked a simple question." Reyes already knew the answer. What if diplomacy fails? Hale nodded. Project Aegis was authorized quietly. Not for conquest. Not for domination. For deterrence. The officers turned slowly, taking in the scale. "These ships were built during the early expansion era," Hale continued. "Before we trusted the Council. Before we relied on interstellar arbitration." He stopped beside the nearest flagship. Its hull bore a single inscription near the prow. Sigma Fleet. The public fleets were limited, Hale said. Decommissioned prototypes. Balanced designs to reassure our neighbors. He looked up at the warship towering above them. These were not balanced. Reyes exhaled slowly. "How many?" 112 capital-class vessels. 400 support and escort ships. Independent FTL drives. Stealth matrices beyond current Council detection thresholds. Patel's eyes widened. "They think they outgun us 3-1. "They do." A technician activated internal systems remotely. Across the hangar, dormant reactors hummed. Massive power cores glowed faint blue as systems cycled from standby to readiness. Shield generators synchronized. Weapons arrays calibrated. Dock clamps disengaged with deep metallic thuds. For generations, the Sigma fleet had existed only as a rumor whispered in defense circles, a contingency so extreme it bordered on myth. Reyes looked at Hale. "They executed a child thinking we were contained." Hale's jaw tightened. "They believed our patience was weakness." Overhead, mechanical gantries retracted, exposing concealed launch shafts that led upward through reinforced tunnels toward the open sky. "The fleet was never meant to be used lightly," Hale said. "It was built for the day someone crossed a line that could not be negotiated." He turned to face his officers. That day arrived. Silence settled, heavy but resolute. Outside, hidden launch doors began to part across multiple classified sites around Earth. Deserts, oceans, mountain ranges. Across the planet, ancient warships rose from concealment like waking giants. Reyes straightened. "Orders, sir." Hale's voice was calm. "Full activation. Fleet-wide mobilization." He glanced once more at the sleeping giants now fully awake. "Today," he said quietly, "we remind the galaxy." Counselor Verith of the Galactic Council was enjoying the quiet. The execution had gone precisely as intended. Markets across Council space stabilized within hours of the broadcast. Several minor species issued public statements reaffirming loyalty. Trade convoys resumed under tightened inspection protocols. Humanity, as predicted, had gone silent. Silence meant compliance. Verith reclined in his elevated command chamber overlooking the capital world's orbital ring. The chamber walls shimmered with translucent data streams, fleet movements, diplomatic channels, economic indices. "Status of human response?" he asked lazily. His aide flicked through reports. "No fleet mobilization detected. No official transmission issued. Their border patrols remain within assigned corridors." Verith allowed himself a thin smile. "Predictable." An alert chimed. "Minor. Peripheral Patrol Sector 12. The aide frowned. Unidentified signatures emerging near the outer marker buoys. Vareth waved a dismissive hand. Independent traders. Smugglers emboldened by confusion. The aide hesitated. The energy profile does not match known civilian configurations. Varetha's smile thinned slightly. Deploy a patrol wing. Standard intercept. Moments later, 3 Council cruisers altered course toward the anomaly. Their approach vectors displayed clearly on the chamber's central projection. Then the projection flickered. The patrol wing vanished. No debris field. No distress signal. No transmission. Just absence. The aide's skin tone shifted toward pale blue, an involuntary stress response. Replay that. The feed rewound. 3 cruisers advancing in formation. A distortion in space. A single pulse of light. Then nothing. They were within full shield integrity, the aide whispered. Impossible, Vareth snapped. Magnify. The distortion sharpened. Dark hulls emerged from cloak, angular, unfamiliar, massive. Their weapons arrays discharged with surgical precision. The patrol had not even completed target acquisition. And there, burned into the prow of the lead vessel, the human insignia. Not the diplomatic crest. Not the civilian exploration mark. A predatory sigma. Vareth rose slowly from his seat. Full sensor sweep, he ordered. The display expanded outward. Dozens. No, hundreds. Warp signatures blossomed along the system's outer edge, each resolving into warships unlike any recorded in Council databases. Hull compositions defied spectral analysis. FTL drives spooled with unfamiliar energy curves. They were confined, the aide murmured. Clearly not, Vareth replied, though his voice had lost its earlier ease. Emergency signals began cascading across the chamber. Outer defense grid overwhelmed. Logistics stations destroyed. Sensor relays disabled with pinpoint strikes. The human fleet did not engage the capital directly. They dismantled its eyes first. One by one, Council detection nodes went dark. They are targeting infrastructure, the aide said, horror dawning. Supply corridors. Comms arrays. Scramble the main fleet, Vareth barked. But even as the command transmitted, more red indicators flared. Human vessels appeared inside what had been considered secured territory, jumping with precision through blind spots in the defensive lattice. They've mapped our response times, the aide whispered. They've been preparing, Vareth realized. A final feed appeared, direct channel override. The face of Admiral Marcus Hale filled the central projection. Come. Unhurried. You executed a child, Hale said evenly. Vareth attempted to compose himself. You mistake our restraint for vulnerability, Admiral. Hale's expression did not change. You mistook our patience for weakness. Behind him, the Sigma fleet hung in silent formation, vast, disciplined, predatory. Vareth felt something unfamiliar coil in his chest. Not anger. Not arrogance. Fear. We miscalculated, the aide breathed. For the first time since the broadcast, Counselor Vareth understood the magnitude of the line they had crossed. And the cost that was coming. The Council's main defense fleet assembled in textbook formation. 3 concentric rings around the capital world. Dreadnoughts at the core. Cruiser screens layered outward. Interceptor wings poised along predictable vector lanes. It was a display of power meant to intimidate. Against conventional enemies, it worked. Admiral Marcus Hale studied the formation from the bridge of the HSS Indomitable. Rigid, Commander Reyes observed quietly. Beautiful, Hale replied. And brittle. Launch vectors. Initiate Phase 1. Across the dark expanse, bays opened along the hulls of Sigma-class carriers. Swarms of compact strike craft poured outward, not in neat wings, but in fluid, shifting patterns that defied conventional targeting algorithms. Council gunners locked onto the first wave, then lost them. The human fighters did not fly straight. They blurred. Stealth matrices shimmered in and out of detection bands, their hulls refracting sensor pulses. When Council targeting systems recalibrated, the fighters were already elsewhere, angles shifting faster than prediction software could compensate. Missile locks failing, a council officer shouted somewhere deep within the capital fleet. The first human strike did not target weapons. It targeted power conduits. Beams of focused white energy lanced across space with surgical precision. Council cruisers flared as shield generators overloaded, collapsing inward rather than outward, short-circuited by frequencies tuned specifically to their modulation range. "How?" Councillor Vereth whispered in his command chamber. "They've studied our shield harmonics," an aide replied, voice strained. The Sigma fleet's capital ships remained at distance. They did not rush. They did not posture. They observed. Fighter swarms slipped between Council dreadnoughts, weaving like metallic hornets. Micro-torpedoes struck sensor arrays, comm relays, propulsion nodes. Engines failed. Formation cohesion dissolved. Panic bled into the Council command net. Regroup. Tighten defensive arc. But tightening only concentrated vulnerability. Hale gave the next order. Phase 2. Sigma dreadnoughts advanced, not in a single line, but staggered in overlapping vectors. Their hulls shimmered as layered shield matrices activated, multi-spectrum defenses that absorbed incoming fire and redistributed the energy in cascading arcs. Council heavy cannons struck. The human shields did not flicker. They adapted. Impact signatures bent along curved energy planes, dispersing into harmless glows. "They're not static barriers," Reyes murmured. "They're reactive." Hale nodded. "Adaptive defense. We built them for worst-case scenarios." The Sigma fleet fired. Not salvos. Not barrages. Precision. One dreadnought spinal cannon discharged a focused lance that sliced through the command wing of a Council battleship, severing its coordination systems without breaching the reactor core. Another targeted propulsion nodes across 3 cruisers simultaneously, leaving them drifting but intact. Within minutes, a third of the Council fleet was immobilized. Not destroyed. Neutralized. Councillor Vereth gripped the edge of his console as red indicators filled his display. "Casualties. Minimal hull loss," the aide reported shakily. "But we are combat ineffective." The human fleet had not fired on population centers. Not one strike had targeted the planet below. The message was deliberate. Admiral Hale opened a channel. The projection of his face filled the Council command chamber once more. "You have seen what we are capable of," he said calmly. Behind him, Council ships drifted powerless amid the imposing shadow of the Sigma fleet. "We could end this fleet," Hale continued. "We could reduce this system to debris." He paused. "We will not." Vereth swallowed. "What do you want?" "Rescind the confinement edicts. Public acknowledgement of your crime. And assurance that no human life will ever again be used as spectacle." Silence hung heavy. Council weapons powered down first. One by one, ships deactivated offensive systems. Vereth lowered his gaze. "We comply." On the bridge of the Indomitable, Hale did not smile. "Transmit full withdrawal protocols," he ordered. The Sigma fleet held position. Watching. Warning. They had demonstrated superiority. They had chosen restraint. And that choice was far more terrifying than annihilation. The surrender of the capital fleet did not end the crisis. It exposed it. Within the halls of the Galactic Council, emergency sessions convened behind sealed chambers. Publicly, they framed the encounter as a misunderstanding resolved through mutual restraint. Privately, they rebuilt. Shipyards accelerated production. Outer sector governors were ordered to consolidate forces. Loyalist species were pressured to contribute vessels under collective security mandates. Humiliation had not broken the Council. It had angered it. Admiral Marcus Hale expected nothing less. On the bridge of the HSS Indomitable, strategic projections shifted from demonstration to expansion. "Council core fleets are regrouping," Commander Reyes reported. "But they're stretched thin. Frontier oversight is weakening." Hale studied the map. Highlighted systems blinked along the periphery, regions long subject to Council administrative correction. Worlds taxed beyond sustainability. Species restricted from independent FTL development. Trade monopolized under threat of sanction. "They ruled through dependency," Hale said quietly. Control the lanes, control the future. And now? Reyes asked. Now those lanes are open. Encrypted channels extended outward, not to conquer, but to communicate. First contact came from the Varani clans, a warrior culture reduced to industrial servitude generations ago. Then the Kelathi syndicates, merchants shackled by tariff mandates that favored council elites. Then smaller polities, quiet but watching. Hale addressed them plainly. We are not conquerors, he said across a multi-system broadcast. We are ending tyranny. It was not rhetoric. It was policy. Human fleets did not occupy liberated systems. They dismantled blockade stations. They transferred shipbuilding schematics. They restored local autonomy and moved on. With each world that declared independence, the Council's authority thinned. In orbit above a reclaimed mining colony, Varani warships formed alongside Sigma-class cruisers, sleek human silhouettes beside jagged alien hulls. A coalition. Not uniform. Not centralized. Unified by one principle. No more public executions. No more enforced submission. Commander Reyes watched the growing fleet assemble across the stars. This changes the balance permanently, she said. Hale nodded. The Council thought they were containing one species. Beyond the viewport, ships from a dozen banners ignited their drives in synchronized alignment. They're about to face a coalition. The Council struck first. Not at Earth. At the coalition. A system-wide assault ignited across the virile expanse, one of the newly liberated trade hubs whose shipyards had begun producing independent vessels. The Galactic Council deployed everything they had left in reserve. Dreadnoughts. Siege platforms. Long-range interdiction fields designed to isolate entire systems from hyperspace reinforcement. When the alarms reached Admiral Marcus Hale, he was already moving. Jump coordinates locked, Commander Reyes called. Full coalition mobilizing. The Sigma fleet tore into the expanse in staggered waves, human capital ships flanked by Varani assault cruisers and Kelathi electronic warfare frigates. Space above the contested system fractured into light and fire. The Council had learned. They did not form static rings. They advanced in layered spearheads, aiming straight for coalition command vessels. Hale anticipated it. Phase 1, he ordered. Blind them. Coalition strike teams surged ahead, not at the front line, but at the periphery. Kelathi frigates flooded the battle space with signal interference, corrupting Council comm arrays. Human stealth corvettes slipped past heavy engagements to cripple fuel carriers and ammunition tenders. Council fleets pushed forward regardless. Heavy cannons carved through Varani hulls. A human destroyer erupted in plasma as a gravitic lance punched through its spine. Debris scattered across the engagement zone like burning rain. Port flank collapsing. Reyes warned. Hale's jaw tightened. Hold the corridor. Keep their command ships isolated. The Central Council dreadnought advanced like a moving fortress, shields reinforced, bristling with artillery designed to overwhelm even Sigma defenses. It targeted the Indomitable. Energy slammed into the human flagship shields, forcing power reroutes. Consoles sparked. The deck shuddered violently. Shield integrity dropping to 60%, Reyes said through clenched teeth. Hale watched the tactical grid narrow around them. For a brief, cold moment, he saw the possibility of failure. If the flagship fell, coalition coordination would fracture. The Council dreadnought charged its main cannon. Then hyperspace flared. Varani warcruisers emerged directly along the dreadnought's vulnerable ventral arc, ships that had deliberately withdrawn earlier, only to reappear at the critical second. They did not target the guns. They targeted the command bridge. Simultaneously, Sigma strike craft dove beneath the dreadnought's shield harmonics, exploiting a frequency gap opened by Kelathi interference. The combined strike ruptured the dreadnought's command core. The massive vessel drifted, weapons dimming, coordination shattered. Across the battlefield, Council formations faltered. Coalition fleets pressed the advantage, not recklessly, but decisively. Comms relays severed. Supply chains collapsed. Command ships disabled. The assault unraveled. Heavy losses scarred both sides, wreckage orbiting like a graveyard of ambition. But when the firestorm finally subsided, the expanse remained free. On the bridge of the battered Indomitable, Hale exhaled slowly. Chaotic. Costly. Controlled. The coalition had held. The war should have ended at the virile expanse. It did not. Counselor Vereth had survived the destruction of his flagship. Intelligence reports confirmed his escape to a classified stronghold deep within restricted Council territory, an installation erased from public star charts decades earlier. And he was not retreating. He was escalating. Intercepted transmissions revealed the truth: a stellar compression device housed within the black site, an experimental weapon capable of triggering artificial stellar collapse. Not a bombardment. Not a fleet killer. A sun killer. The target designation chilled every coalition strategist who read it. The virile expanse. If the coalition held the system, Vereth would reduce it to ash. Admiral Marcus Hale read the data twice before looking up. "He'll burn billions to preserve authority," Commander Reyes said quietly. "Yes," Hale replied. "And if we attack directly, he triggers it." There was only one path left. Covert insertion. No fleet assault. No bombardment. A strike team. The base orbited a dim red dwarf, shielded behind gravitational distortions and layered sensor grids. Sigma stealth cruisers slipped into the outer shadow of the system, deploying a single infiltration craft under full cloak. Hale led the team himself. The docking breach was surgical. EMP pulses silenced outer defenses, plasma cutters slicing through the hull without triggering alarm thresholds. Inside, corridors hummed with unstable energy. The stellar compression core lay at the heart of the installation, an orb of contained gravitational distortion suspended within a lattice of magnetic stabilizers. Vereth awaited them in the command chamber. "You came personally," he observed coldly as Hale stepped through the shattered doors. "You threatened a star." Vereth's eyes burned with fanatic certainty. "If I cannot rule the galaxy," he said, "I will deny it to you." His hand hovered over the activation console. The duel was brief and brutal. No speeches. No ceremony. Plasma bolts scorched walls as Hale advanced. Vereth drew a concealed energy blade, slashing with desperate precision. They collided amid sparks and failing consoles, the chamber shaking as the destabilized core pulsed erratically behind them. Vereth lunged. Hale deflected, driving him back into the control array. A stray shot struck the stabilizer column. The core flared violently. Warning sirens screamed. Containment integrity dropping. Vereth staggered, realization dawning too late. "You've doomed us all," he hissed. Hale looked past him to the trembling sphere of compressed stellar fury. "No," he said quietly. The weapon began to destabilize. The stellar compression core screamed. There is no other word for it. A rising harmonic shriek vibrated through the command chamber as arcs of gravitational energy snapped across the containment lattice. The red dwarf outside the viewport flickered erratically, its surface flaring in response to the destabilizing pulse. "Containment failure in 90 seconds!" Reyes shouted over the comm. Admiral Marcus Hale stood between the trembling core and the shattered control console where Counselor Vereth lay motionless. There was no time. If the lattice collapsed fully, the chain reaction would propagate outward, triggering a stellar flare capable of sterilizing the entire system. "Evacuate," Hale ordered. "Sir," Reyes began. "That's an order." The strike team hesitated only a fraction of a second before obeying. Discipline over protest. Boots pounded down the corridor as emergency beacons ignited along their retreat path. Hale stepped toward the central stabilizer column. Manual override access. It required someone physically present to hold the containment field in compressed equilibrium long enough for the evacuation craft to clear the blast radius. There was no automated solution. He keyed the channel one last time. "Reyes." Her voice cracked through static. "We're at the docking bay. Sir, you have to move." He smiled faintly, though no one could see it. "Get the fleet clear. Minimum safe distance." A pause. "Marcus." He rarely allowed personal names on duty. He allowed it now. "You keep them together," he said quietly. "No retaliation strikes. No revenge burns. This ends here." The core flared brighter. Warning glyphs flashed red across his visor. Reyes' voice steadied with visible effort. "It's been an honor, sir." "The honor was mine." He terminated the channel. Alone in the chamber, Hale placed both hands on the stabilizer interface. Raw energy surged through the conduit, tearing at the protective shielding of his suit. He thought of Earth, of oceans turning in patient rhythm, of a boy who had etched his name into alloy because he wanted to be remembered. "This is for you, kid," Hale whispered. The core ruptured. Light consumed the station in a silent bloom that outshone the red dwarf for a single blinding instant. Coalition fleets, already accelerating to emergency vectors, felt the shockwave ripple past them, violent but contained. The star did not collapse. The system survived. In the days that followed, news of the sacrifice spread faster than any fleet. Across Council territories, oppressed worlds rose openly. Without Veritha's threat, and without his weapon, the remaining Council leadership fractured. Revolution ignited. Not from conquest. From example. The Sigma fleet did not occupy the fallen capital. It withdrew. Earth did not demand tribute. It demanded reform. And in academies across liberated systems, a name was etched into memorial walls beside a simple inscription. Admiral Marcus Hale. He drew the line. The galaxy had learned something irreversible. Humanity would endure insult. It would endure hardship. It would even endure loss. But when a line was crossed, it would answer, and legends would rise from the fire.